Hello again, and welcome to Football Manager Roleplay, a project where we create a player using the FM pregame editor. We give him a potential ability of 200 and see if he will become the greatest American footballer ever. We simply watch the progression of this player, Henry Marshall, from the age of 15 to hopefully his eventual retirement. This is a role building exercise where Football Manager provides the events, and we build a story around those events. Let's take a look at Henry's current slide. We have now advanced to September 2026, and the Premier League season has started, but Henry is with the Liverpool under-21 squad. Can he move to the big club, or will he just be put on loan, or will he be stuck in the youth academy level? So let's move forward and observe what happens. And we are back. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a few little please stand by screens here and there just to avoid giving the entire game away. Let's go to the schedule here. September 7th, we are playing not in the Premier Division, but we are playing in the Under-21 Premier Division. And our first game that we'll look at is the game at Southampton as part of the second game of a 4-game road trip. Southampton Under-21s on September 7th. That game, as you can see here, ended in a 1-1 draw. Henry Marshall left that game in the 85th minute due to what he thought, and what the team thought, was a potentially serious leg injury in the 85th minute. But it all cleared up the next day. Imagine that. Sometimes those things just happen. Marshall finished that game with a 6.9 rating. It was a decent showing. He had no major mistakes here. If you'll see his, find Liverpool Under-21, there he is. No major mistakes, but he just couldn't provide any offense that Liverpool needed for that game. This is the early part of the season, and games coming fast and furious. The next game scheduled was on the 10th. It was part of the road trip. This was against Chelsea Under-21s. And this game ended in a 2-2 draw. So Liverpool's just holding out during the road trip. All the goals were scored in the first half. Matt Maloney here, he scores both goals for the Under-21 squad. Henry Marshall, he ends that game with a 7.0 rating, a little bit better than last time. Look at his player statistics here. He had 98% passing accuracy. He had 4 interceptions. So, a little bit fatigued. They now will have to go 4 days later at the Arsenal Under-21s. Liverpool is currently number 1 in the Under-21 Premier Division. Arsenal is number 7. How did that game turn out? Yep, it was a 1-2 loss to the Arsenal Under-21s. They went 4 games on the road in a row, no wins. Liverpool couldn't hold the possession, which you can see here, and Arsenal won 96% of their tackles. Marshall, on the other hand, he had a good game, a little better than last time, 7.1. And look at his player statistics here. There is Marshall's line right there. 5 dribbles, 7.1 match rate. Let's go back to the social feed, if we can. Kind of stumble around here like a blind man trying to find it. Let's see, there it is. Let's see. Find. Yep. Liverpool and Villarreal. They will clash in the first game of the Champions League. And the Reds will go to Villarreal. And how will that game turn out? They will lose 1-0. No, I can't seem to pull up the Champions League results. I know there's a way to pull these results up. I just have to go back to the settings. And I think it's under here, under detail level. And I'll end up doing that later. But in all, it's a rough start for Zidane. And if we have Valentin Rozier's goal is the only one scored in it. Coming up, we have Liverpool Watford. This was going to take place on September 19th. It would be 6th place Liverpool against 20th place bottom dwelling Watford. Now on Friday the 18th, Henry Marshall and Russell John both received word from Barry Nudis, who is the head coach of the under-21s team. There's Marshall. There's Russell John. They received word that they were going to be called, they were going to be moved out of the training session with the under-21s and to the session with the Liverpool senior squad. Now on Friday, basically what the senior squad were doing were abbreviated set-piece training workthroughs. And Zidane's assistant coach, Aaron Briggs, after working through their pieces, he told the two, Marshall and John, that they would be reserves in the Watford game the next day. So the very next day, they showed up with the team, riding on the bus, finding seats near the front, and savoring the ride to Anfield. They got off the bus, they followed all the other players to the Liverpool dressing room, which was soon alive with activity, and there Henry Marshall saw his number hanging in a corner, number 34. Declan Rice, captain of the Reds, shook Marshall's hand. He told Marshall and Russell John, "You guys really need to bring us some of what you showed us against that Chinese club," he said, referring to Liverpool's preseason. Zidane briefly entered the room, and the players listened to what he had to say. He was there with his translator. Basically, the instructions were to challenge Watford, break up their passing. He reminded the team that Watford were accurate passers, but they were horrible defending their own end. If they can attack, we win, he said. He named certain players and how he wanted them to move up the lines, and he used English when he could, and he relied on the translator for the rest. He then named the starters and looked at Henry Marshall and Russell John and said, "You two, 3-4, 3-1, Marshall, John, you start today." And immediately left to have the lineups turned in. Start? Now? Russell John clapped him on the shoulder. "Holy shit," he said to Henry, grinning. And Henry had to grin back, and his heart was racing. Henry was thinking, hey, it took you 5 years to get to this level, and now you're finally here. He told himself, I don't even have anyone to invite to the lounge. During the pregame warm-ups, Declan Rice and the goalkeeper, Allison, gave Henry Marshall and Russell John a brief preface on what was expected of them. If you're in doubt, listen to the keeper. The back line will take care of you. Follow their instructions. And before Henry knew it, he was playing. At halftime, Liverpool were up 2-1. Comparing the two teams, Henry could feel the real difference between Liverpool and Watford on the pitch. And Henry felt, hey, I could probably play at least at the Watford level because these guys don't look like they're anything special. Henry, however, resolved to keep his guard up. Zidane kept his marks brief at the half. Luis Diaz's 8th-minute goal showed a lot of promise for Liverpool that day, and David Fratesi worked the ball in at the 21st minute. Zidane wanted more pressure on Watford's end, but he felt that the Reds were too aggressive, and this allowed Watford to get a goal on the penalty kick. He then pointed out Henry Marshall. He said to the entire team, left back 3-4, left back, not wing back. More communication, you two. 3-1, make sure he holds his position and doesn't float up into the midfield. They're going to work you two in the second half. Watford's going to see if you're good enough to play. Don't fuck it up. We're counting on you. In the second half, Henry Marshall and Russell John held up off the Watford counterattack and began putting pressure on Watford on the other end. At the 63rd minute of the second half, and this was a set piece they had practiced, Henry Marshall moved up to the 6-yard mark, square in front of the goal, as Jurrien Timber put the ball right at Marshall's feet. Marshall hit that shot, teed off, clean past Watford's Dominic Grief to score Liverpool's third goal of the match and Henry Marshall's first goal ever in the Premier League. Marshall would finish the game with a 7-1 match rating. Let's see if we can pull up some information about that game here. There it is. Liverpool hammer Watford. Yep, Diaz, Vitesse, and Marshall in the 63rd minute. Dominating win by Liverpool. Player statistics. Here's Henry Marshall. Plays the entire game. Finishes a 7-1 match rating. Russell John, his teammate, finishes with a 6-8 rating. The press wanted to talk to Henry Marshall after that game, and they asked him, well, can we expect more goals from you? And Henry said, I never would have gotten that goal without that great assist, Henry said. I would certainly love another goal. Defenders don't get many opportunities. After that, Henry went up to the players' lounge and met many of the bigwigs in the club. That day seemed to go by so fast, and Henry didn't get a man of the match. Man of the match belonged to David Vitesse, but it was a day that Henry would remember for the rest of his life. Let's go back to the other games in the schedule. If you've never noticed this in Football Manager, there is a selection in the in-game editor called Detail Level. This will give you the detail level of all the games that you want to play. You might just want the score. You might want much more knowledge of the games that you would normally get. You can set it for domestic cup matches if you want to. You can set it to none. I only want the scores, or I can set it to say, tell me everything there is about every FA Cup match. So I decided I'd be smart. I decided I would, in my infinite wisdom, decide to customize it so you get a better set of reports. But now it seems like some of my game reports have disappeared, like the dignity of a team signing on for the Super League. So in these cases where my report disappeared and I cannot get Football Manager to generate a game report, instead of showing you a screen like this one, for example, and once again, you've got to navigate like a madman just to get anywhere to where you need to be in this game. Okay, let's find an under 21 squad game right here. See, there is just can't find it, but a lot of them will only deliver you the score and nothing else. So instead of that, what we will be showing you instead of scores is we will show you some exciting highlights from the 1913 FA Cup final. Hopefully, that'll be a good substitute. So, the next game of the under-21 squad is on Monday. The next game of the senior club at Liverpool is on Wednesday. That is the EFL Cup. Which one will Henry play in? The answer, both Henry and Russell John played in the home game against Everton under 21. Sadly, this is a game which we lost the details of. So what happened in this game on September 21st? It was a 0-0 tie. The Liverpool under 21s now have 4 games in a row without a win. Liverpool couldn't hold the possession, and Arsenal won 96% of the tackles. Henry Marshall had 5 dribbles. He had a 77.1 match rating, 2 key passes. Liverpool under 21s were the better team, but they couldn't find a goal, and that leaves 5 straight under 21 games without a win, and they fall to 5th place in the Premier Division under 21. After that game, Henry and Russell were told that they would be playing in the EFL Cup game against Huddersfield on Wednesday. And Russell John said, oh my God, they're gonna knock us down to a bunch of bloody stumps here. But that Tuesday would only be a half day of practice and training. And Liverpool's senior club took a lot of care not to work either Marshall or John too hard. Now, we do have the details of that game on September 23rd at Huddersfield. And here they are. Let's go back there. And the result is a 3-1 victory. As we can see here, led by Diego Jota. He had 2 goals for the Reds, despite Huddersfield winning 90% of the tackles. Henry ended up with a decent 6-8 rating. Let's see if we can find him over here. Yep, there he is at 6-8. His player statistics. But where are we here? There's Henry right here. In terms of, on the Huddersfield game, in terms of he was winning headers, he was very, very bad at that. And things were happening so fast that Henry could barely appreciate a chance to keep playing at the highest level. He prayed that he would no longer have to be playing at the under-21 club and the senior club level simultaneously. He wanted to be up. Now, let's go, if we can see if we can find some stuff in the social feed. Not inbox. Social feed, here we go. And let's see if we can find some information here. Yep, there it is. USA Cup call up unlikely for Marshall. He had been completely ignored for the 2 Nations League games that the USA national team played in September. And he thought at that point the USA selection was break. But he would be practicing with the under-21 squad again on Friday and would not be called to the Liverpool away game against Tottenham on Saturday. So, on September 28th, he was at home at the training facility, AXA, against the Manchester City under-21 squad. And by the way, Manchester City's under-21s are at 14 players. You know, that's the worst team in the under-21 division. What happened in that game? Well, and unfortunately, we have no details to show you. In that game, it was a 2-3 loss for Liverpool's under-21s. That makes the 6th straight game, no wins. Liverpool took an early 2-0 lead. They squandered away. Eddie Egan's 85th goal gave Man City under-21s a come from behind win. Marshall finished with a 6-8 rating, but he was feeling he was losing his touch with his tackling. On the 30th, once again, a game that we have no information for, Liverpool went to Borussia Dortmund for a Champions League game, and they won that game 2-1. 19-year-old Alex Titchfield came on the field in the 69th minute, and he scored the winning goal in the 86th minute, giving a story to tell to his teammates on the under-21 squad. That same day, Henry received a call. He received a call that he would indeed be playing in that game for the United States, in the friendly against Venezuela, and the Nations League game against Curacao. And the first of those matches was going to be in Venezuela. Now, he felt a little intimidated. Venezuela and the USA, as countries, they weren't exactly friends with each other. But he was going to go down into Venezuela by himself, at least on the plane, to South America and meet up with the US team. Now, the first day of training in Venezuela, he felt some tightness in his groin. And the physio told him what he really needed. He needed more rest. He was just having a lot of wear and tear. And, Brian Schmetzer, the head coach, let him walk through some practices for a couple of days. It gave him time to recuperate for the match that Saturday. So on October 7th, they were finally ready to play this game at Venezuela. It's a friendly game. And as you can now see here, it was a 2-1 loss. How did Henry do? He had a 7.4 rating. His rating was, that's to Pulisic's rating here, 7.4 rating for Henry. Christian Pulisic, he scored in the first minute, and that first minute goal that he had, that woke up the crowd, and it woke up Venezuela. After that, Venezuela started fighting, almost literally. A series of yellow cards went down. Fuenmayor in the 4th minute, Savarino in the 6th minute, Murillo booked in the 10th minute. They were just going to try to physically knock the U.S. out of this game. Finally, John Hurtado, he was the guy who picked them up. He would score right after Pulisic scored in the 5th minute, and then he scored in the 49th minute, and that gave the Venezuelans the win. Marshall was substituted off, and we'll look at it here. We don't have that level of data for this game, but we do have it right here. Not right there. Those are the Venezuelans, James. That's my real name, by the way. What happens here is, where's Marshall at? There he is, 72nd minute, but he still has a great rating. A 7.4. Some dribbles, interceptions, couple of key passes there that tried to make things happen for the U.S. They gave him a lot of credit for that. On October 10th, there was a report from Sky Sports in the UK and Vinnie O'Connor. And this report set the under 21 social media texting group ablaze. Connor claimed that an anonymous Liverpool board member stated that the hiring of Zidane as the manager was quote-unquote a big mistake, and that new owner Lewis Scott expected better than 7th position in the Premier League after 9 days. And, well, obviously all the under-21s were talking about it. God knows what the Liverpool senior players were thinking about it, but things are getting a little bit insecure for Zidane. So Henry traveled the USA team to Curacao to play in the Nations League game. And how did that game end up? Well, as you can see, this was a 2-0 win by the U.S. Ferriera in the 5th and Mark Tillman in the 54th. They just pretty much dominated this game completely. We won't talk about it. Henry Marshall was an unused reserve in that game anyway, but he was interviewed by a Netherlands soccer website after the game. Let's see if we can, pull that up. It'll probably either be in social feed or under U.S. Let's see if we find. Yeah, Marshall reserved after win. So, Footballzona, he talked to me, but he found that to be a very interesting experience. That the U.S. has 2 wins and a draw in its division, Group A. They will play El Salvador in November. And let's stop here on October 12th. Henry Marshall makes up for his poor Community Shield appearance by scoring his first goal in the Premier League in his first game at Anfield. Manager Zinedine Zidane's position is insecure at Liverpool. And we'll finish with looking at some screens here. First, here are the USA positions and where they are in the Nations League. Next, what we're going to do is look at Liverpool, and if it will cooperate, yes, and their position in the English Premier Division, which is 7th. And finally, we will look at where the under-21 squad is doing in under-21 Provision 1, and they are currently holding on in 5th place. Anyway, if you find any of this stuff amusing, perplexing, or just plain obsessive, please hit the like or subscribe button. Until next time.